Washington trip. Thank you for your prayers. I don't think it could have gone any better. I certainly felt your prayers. If you can say this, I found out when I got there the morning of the prayer break last Wednesday that I was doing not just a prayer, but the keynote prayer, which I was praying for all the delegates of Alabama. Most of them were there. I think there were 2 that could not be there. And, of course, all of Congress and Senate, and the invocation. And but it just just couldn't have gone better. And so thank you for your prayers. I certainly felt them. On Monday, I left on Monday. And on Monday morning, before I got to the plane, I received a phone call from Carmela. Y'all know Carmela. She's a prayer warrior. I mean, she is a prayer warrior. She said, Pastor, I'm just calling to tell you that I've been up since 4 o'clock. This was at 10 o'clock in the morning. She said, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning praying for you and praying for the prayer meeting. She said, I've not only prayed for you, she said, but I have 2 other prayer links going in the state of Georgia and in the state of Florida. And we've all been praying. She said, there are several people in each of these links, and we've been praying since 4 o'clock for you, 4 o'clock a.m. And I said, you don't know how much that means to me. She said, we prayed for everything. We prayed for your planes. We prayed for the buildings. We prayed for every person that you come in contact with. We prayed for the cars. We prayed for she just reeling off everything. I said, thank you. So, but with all of the prayers offered, I just don't think it could have gone any better, and was a good time. I was very impressed with several of the representatives who prayed, the depth of their prayers. I was so encouraged by that. And from some of our senators, I got to visit with several of them and meet them and talk with them, and was very impressed. It's good to know that there's some depth, there's some Christian depth there that we don't hear about. There is. And I had heard some of that through another contact I had, that there's more Christian depth. They just don't get any attention. But there are Bible studies going on. One of the congressmen told me his wife hosts a Bible study in her house every week for other congressional leaders' wives. And they were telling about it. And so it was just a very positive experience. I had the opportunity to tour the White House, as I told you, and that was a first-time experience. I've been to Washington a number of times, but had never gone through the White House. Got to go through the White House, say hello to the president. No, I didn't. He was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I landed, he left. But that was just a unique thing. I'll tell you something that I got to do, though, that I'd always heard about and never done in any of my trips there. I've been to the Capitol several times, been to the Senate building, to the House building, that sort of stuff. But I'd always heard about this underground tunnel system that connects all of these buildings underground. And I got to use the underground tunnel system to get between the buildings. And so that was pretty cool. But that's reserved for congressional leaders and their staffs. And since I was with a staff member, I was able to go. We had access to everything. There are hundreds of people. He said, after the prayer breakfast, he said, you want to go look around in the Capitol? I said, yeah. I said, it's been years since I've been inside the Rotunda area. And I said, besides, I really want to go down below in what they call the crypt. There's statues. Every state has a statue of somebody. And I said, Billy Graham now has a statue here. And I said, I want to see the statue of Billy Graham. And I knew it was in the crypt, so we went down. That's right below the Rotunda. If you go up in the Rotunda, it's where the old House of Representatives used to meet and when in the early days of the Capitol. We got to go down and see that. We walked around a little bit. Had a little bit of time. Y'all know my penchant for history, and he did too. He said, you want to go to the National Museum of American History? I said, I've been there, but I said, it's been a while. I said, yeah, let's do that. We did that, And so we just did a little bit of those kinds of things. I didn't realize how much I had forgotten. But so that was all kind of just side stuff that we got to do, and I appreciate again your prayers. You must have quit though before I got back to the airport to come home, because if y'all were here Sunday, I told you that the funny thing was on the way out of Dothan when I set my backpack down on the little conveyor belt. The TSA agent standing there looked at me and said, "Is this your briefcase?" It's one of our members who's a TSA agent. I said, "No, this is not the briefcase. This is a backpack." And it went on through. He was being smart. He had been here on Sunday and heard the message when I talked about the briefcase that always got pulled out. So he's just being a smart aleck. But when I got to go back, I was headed back from Reagan National, and I went through the security thing and going through that. And, you have to, again, as I said, you have to take your belt off and your shoes off and just about anything. If you have a overcoat on or anything, you got to take it all off, and your watches and your wallets and all of this kind of stuff. And so I do that. You got to take out your laptop or your tablet or that kind of stuff out of your backpack. And also I do all that stuff, and you have to put it, in all the bins, and it's going through. And I got, I think, 3 bins. I've got the tablet out, and then my shoes and belt and wallet and all that stuff laying in one. They go through, and I pick up everything, start getting redressed, and I'm holding my tablet. I'm waiting for my backpack to come through. It's not coming through. It's not coming through. 4 or 5 people that were behind me have picked up all their stuff and their luggage, and they've all gone, and I'm still waiting there. More people are coming through. I'm still waiting. My backpack hasn't come through, and then all of a sudden, the TSA agent holds it up in the air and says, "Whose backpack is this?" I said, "That's mine." She said, "Come here." I had to walk over to one of the stations. She said, "I've got to go through it." I said, "Fine." I said, "Why?" And she said, "There are large electronics in this." I said, and I picked up my tablet. That's the only large electronic I had. I picked it up. I said, "No, ma'am, I'm holding it. This is my large electron. I'm holding it." And it went through the, she said, "That's not what the scanner says." I said, "Well, the scanner's wrong." And then I thought, don't get smarmy with them. And then I thought, I better be nice. I said, oh, okay. And so she said, she looked through all the pockets. She said, "What's that?" I said, "It's a chocolate bar." And I said, "I'd like to keep that if I could." She takes it. She says, "Okay." She zipped it up, put it back through, came through, said, "Here you go." Go figure. I guess I just look like I got something going on. So, but at any rate, again, thank you for your prayers. Now, tonight what I want to do, because in the time that we have, I want to talk to you about a question I've been asked again and again about what's going on. We're all watching Israel and the Iranian conflict that is going on, which really has been mischaracterized by much of the left media. For example, the left media acts like Israel initiated this. That's just not true. Israel finally said, "We've had enough." You see, the Houthis have been launching missiles every week for months now from Yemen. Do you know who sponsors the Houthis? Iran. Hezbollah, who was firing into Israel from the north significantly. They had over 200,000 missiles. I don't know if they launched 200,000 because Israel took out their command structure. You know who sponsors and pays for those missiles and provides them to Hezbollah? Iran. Hamas, back October 7th when they attacked all those young people at the music festival, Hamas, out of Gaza, guess who pays for, who helped strategize that attack? Guess who it was, class? Iran. And so you never hear that. By the way, they were able to do that because just a couple of administrations ago, we decided we could talk Yeah, I ran into being nice guys.